Fake fuses are a piece of utility I bring into every kit as a tool to control engagements in my favor. The more I've played Hunt, the more I find myself at a handicap not bringing them in, as they widen my options for engagements even more so than actual explosives, which is something I'll elaborate on later. I consider them an irreplaceable piece of utility, and at $30 Hunt dollars, you really don't need to break a sweat bringing them in. It feels like the more I develop as a player and understand the psychological aspects of gunfights, the more utility I find in these seemingly simple tools. Proper use allows you to control the dynamics of engagements by cutting off options for your opponents, by taking advantage of the fear that comes from dynamite and grenades, especially in gunfights when you know your opponents are under stress. When death is looming around the corner, taking time to gamble if it was a fake or not is something most people are not prepared for or willing to risk, especially if it's not clearly in view. And based on my personal experience, not many people utilize them, which is translated to not many people being prepared for them. One of the many and more straightforward examples of their utility is quickly allowing you to clear areas and break stalemates by forcing your opponents to react to the noise of the fuse. Simply cooking one in your hand while in front of a space your opponents might be sitting in will most of the time warrant a reaction to either engage or flee from impending death, forcing them into unfavorable positions that will allow you and your team to capitalize on. Exponentially so if your entire team is utilizing said utility. Running fake fuses alongside actual grenades even further widens your options as to force your opponents to guess which could be real, or rather force them to respect each fuse. For example, simply throwing one before running to engage someone behind a piece of cover puts a lot more psychological stress under your opponents when you push to engage, even using them to cut off choke points to further limit their options. In situations where people may be stationary, you can utilize the high amount of fuses to clear multiple corners and force movement, whereas otherwise you would have had to clear on their terms. Fake fuses, as well as grenades, are really considered tiebreakers in situations where your opponents may be stationary or hiding behind a piece of cover. Even in a pinch where you're put under pressure, throwing a fuse under your feet while fleeing could allow you to stop them long enough from following your trail to allow you time to heal and reposition.
Nice.
Other uses of fuses is giving you the ability to deny reses for a short period of time at a distance or position where you might otherwise not have been able to have a sightline. If your opponents start resing and hear a grenade being cooked on their position, odds are, even if they get the res, them and their revived teammate could be killed. Other niche examples where fake fuses can actually have further utility than a real grenade can be throwing fuses into doorways before pushing, hypothetically forcing opponents off the door and giving you more space to clear. It could also mask the sound of your footsteps pushing in, giving potential for your opponents to be unprepared for your push. One of my favorite examples that involves teamwork is throwing multiple fake fuses to mask the sound of your teammate climbing a ladder or really any structure. Not only will it block off noise, but it can also dissuade and lower the chances of people peeking from the angles you threw them in, giving you more hypothetical ground to work with. The more ground you control, the more options you have, and the more you can utilize aggression. You never want to be on your back foot in fights. Being the one in control will always put you at an advantage. Fake fuses give you more options for exactly this. It's important to remember that each engagement and each opponent will be different. I don't see fake fuses as guaranteeing these examples in every fight, but rather I see them as giving you higher percentages of success for certain actions by giving you more options to work with. The more you develop as a player, the more you will be able to understand what your opponents may be thinking. Putting yourself in their shoes during a fight to understand how they may feel is something you could take advantage of. When I'm engaging people, I think about what may be in their head and consider how much pressure they're under. Using fuses to take advantage of these situations will win you more fights. When I first started using fuses, it was mostly a utility I kept forgetting to use, but I stuck with it and actively put in effort to try and utilize them. The more I've played and stuck with them, the more uses I've been able to find and will further find the more I play. I know for a fact they have improved my gameplay over time, and I encourage you to get in the habit of bringing them in and sticking with learning how to use them, because over time, you will find yourself in situations that could have been solved by a simple fake fuse.
that again.